The morning sun burned bright over forward operating base Arcturus. The heat made the metal buildings shimmer like water. On the main parade ground, 300 soldiers stood in perfect lines. Their boots were polished. Their uniforms were crisp. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Lance Corporal Una Park stood in the third row with her squad. Sweat ran down her back, but she didn't move to wipe it away. Her rifle rested against her shoulder at exactly the right angle. She had practiced this 1,000 times. Today was important. The alien observers were coming. The Galactic Council sent representatives every year to inspect human military bases. They wanted to see if humanity was strong enough to be a real partner in the coalition. Captain Hyunwoo Lee had reminded them every day for a month. Make us look good. Don't embarrass the human race. Stand tall. Una heard the vehicles before she saw them. 3 transports rolled across the field and stopped near the command platform. The doors opened. 3 aliens stepped out. The first was a Chitauri. It looked like a giant insect, with 4 arms and a hard shell that reflected the light in rainbow colors. Its eyes were compound, like a fly's eyes, seeing everything at once. The second was a lumen, a being made of living crystal that hummed softly as it moved. The third was a Vrel, a cloud of gas held together by some technology Una didn't understand. It floated above the ground in a transparent containment suit. Captain Lee walked beside them, talking quickly and gesturing at the soldiers. The aliens moved slowly down the first line of troops. They stopped at each soldier, looking them up and down. The Chitauri made clicking sounds. The lumen hummed, different tones. The Vrel swirled in patterns inside its suit. Una's heart beat faster as they came closer. She stood at 5 feet 2 inches tall. She was the shortest person in her squad. In her entire company, actually. She had always been small. The drill instructors in basic training had made jokes about it. Her squad mates were kind, but she heard the whispers. How did someone so tiny become a Marine? The aliens reached the third row. They stopped in front of Private Jin Ho Nam, who stood next to Una. He was tall and broad, exactly what anyone would picture when they thought of a soldier. The Chitauri nodded its head in approval. Then they moved to Una. The Chitauri stopped. Its head tilted to one side, then the other. It made a rapid clicking sound that the translation device on Captain Lee's belt turned into words. This one is very small. Is this one sick? Why is this one here? Captain Lee's face turned red. He looked at Una, then at the aliens, then back at Una. She could see him thinking. She could see him making a choice. Her stomach felt cold. Lance Corporal Park, step aside from formation, Captain Lee said. His voice was loud enough for everyone to hear. Una felt like she had been hit. Step aside? In front of everyone? In front of the entire battalion? Sir? She said quietly. Step aside, Lance Corporal. Now. His voice was harder this time. Una took 2 steps backward, then moved to the side. She stood alone on the hot pavement, while her squad stayed in formation. She kept her eyes forward, but she could feel everyone looking at her. She wanted to disappear. She wanted to explain. Captain Lee turned back to the aliens. My apologies. That soldier is not representative of our standard troops. Let me show you our actual combat personnel. The aliens moved on. Una stood by herself, her hands clasped behind her back in the position called parade rest. The position of waiting. The position of being nowhere important. She heard boots on pavement. Heavy, measured steps. Someone was walking toward her from the command building. She didn't turn her head, but she could see him from the corner of her eye. Sergeant Major Daejung Kang was a legend. 20 years in service. 3 wars. More medals than anyone could count. His face looked like it was carved from stone, all hard lines and old scars. When he walked into a room, everyone stood straighter. When he spoke, everyone listened. He was walking toward Una. She felt panic rise in her chest. What now? Would he yell at her for embarrassing the unit? Would he ask why someone like her thought she could be a Marine? Sergeant Major Kang walked past her, slowly. Then he stopped. He stood very still, looking at something. Yuna didn't move. Her hands were still clasped behind her back. "Lance Corporal Park," he said. His voice was quiet, which somehow made it scarier than if he had yelled. "Yes, Sergeant Major. Show me your hand." Yuna blinked. Of all the things she expected him to say, that wasn't one of them. "Sergeant Major? Sergeant Major. Sergeant Major. Your right hand. Hold it out." She brought her right hand forward and extended it, palm down. The sunlight hit it directly. She knew what he was seeing. She had seen it in the mirror every morning for 6 months. 3 parallel lines ran across the back of her hand, from her knuckles almost to her wrist. They were deep scars, rough and raised. Next to them were burn marks, patches where the skin had melted and healed strangely. The scars were white against her tan skin. They would never fully fade. The doctors had told her that. Sergeant Major Kang stepped closer. He bent down slightly to look at the scars more carefully. His eyes went wide, actually wide. Yuna had never seen him show surprise before. He reached out and gently turned her hand to see it from different angles. His own hands were scarred too, she noticed. Old wounds from old battles. "Dear God," he whispered. Then, louder. "You were on Kepler 442b. It wasn't a question. It was a statement. A recognition. Yuna felt her throat get tight. She hadn't talked about Kepler 442b. Not really. She had given her report to the officers. She had talked to the counselors. They made her see. But she hadn't talked about it. Not about what it felt like. Not about the screaming, or the blood, or the fear. Everyone stopped. The aliens stopped. Captain Lee stopped. 300 soldiers held their breath. Sergeant Major Kang pointed at Yuna. "That Marine was told to step aside because she's too small. Because she doesn't look like what you think a soldier should look like." He walked back toward Yuna, and his voice got louder with each step. "But those scars on her hand tell a different story. Those scars are from Kepler 442b. And if you don't know what that means, you're about to find out exactly what kind of soldiers humanity produces." 6 months earlier, Kepler 442b was the prettiest planet Yuna had ever seen. The sky was blue, like Earth's sky, maybe a little lighter. The grass was green, but with tiny purple flowers growing everywhere. The air smelled clean, like after rain. When Yuna stepped off the transport ship and took her first breath, she thought this was what paradise must feel like. The colony was small. 2,000 people. Most of them were families who wanted a fresh start away from crowded Earth. There were farmers, teachers, engineers, doctors, the kind of people who build communities. The kind of people who plant trees, knowing their children will sit in the shade. Yuna was part of the security detachment. 12 Marines total, led by Sergeant Tae-Hyun Moon. Their job was simple. Patrol the perimeter. Check the sensors. Make sure the colonists felt safe. It was boring work, mostly. Yuna didn't mind. After the chaos of basic training and combat school, boring felt good. She shared a barracks with 5 other Marines. Corporal Ji Woo-han was the oldest. Almost 30. With a quiet way of talking that made everyone listen. Private Jin Ho-nam was the biggest, always exercising, always trying to get stronger. The others rotated through different shifts, and Yuna learned their rhythms. Who snored? Who talked in their sleep? Who got up early to write letters home? The colonists were friendly. They invited the Marines to dinners and community events. Yuna met Dr. Hana Yoon, a xenobiologist who studied the native animals and plants. Dr. Yoon had a daughter named Eunji, 6 years old, with pigtails and a smile that could light up a room. Eunji liked to visit the security checkpoint and ask Yuna questions about Earth. Is it true Earth has real oceans? Yunji asked one day. Very real, Yuna said. So big you can't see the other side. I want to see the ocean someday, Yunji said. Mommy promised we can visit when I'm older. There was also Minji Song, who taught at the colony school. She was young, maybe 25. And she made the children laugh during lessons. And Bo Ram Kwan, an engineer who kept all the equipment running. Bo Ram could fix anything with some wire and determination. Life was peaceful. Wake up, run perimeter patrol, check sensors, clean weapons, eat, sleep, repeat. Yuna had time to read, time to think, time to write messages to her family back on Earth. But then Dr. Yoon started reporting strange things. The native animals were acting different. Kepler 442b had plenty of wildlife. Most of it was small. Rabbit-sized creatures that ate the purple flowers. Bird-like things that glided more than flew. The colonists had catalogued hundreds of species. Nothing dangerous, nothing aggressive. The larger predators stayed away from the colony. That was normal. Animals usually avoided humans once they learned what guns were. But Dr. Yoon said the animals were acting scared. Not of humans, of something else. The prey animals are moving away from the eastern forest, she told Sergeant Moon during a meeting. Yuna was there taking notes. And some of my tracking tags have gone silent. The animals wearing them just disappeared. Maybe they migrated? Sergeant Moon suggested. 14 species at once? All heading the same direction? Dr. Yoon shook her head. Something's wrong. Something's out there. Sergeant Moon increased patrols. He sent teams deeper into the forest. Yuna volunteered for every mission. She was good at moving quietly, good at seeing details others missed. She had scored highest in her class on tracking and reconnaissance. During one patrol, about 2 weeks before everything fell apart, Yuna found the claw marks. She was 3 kilometers east of the colony, checking a sensor relay that kept going offline. The relay was fine, but nearby, a tree had been shredded. Long gouges ran from above Yuna's head down to the roots. The bark was torn away. The wood underneath looked like something had tried to dig through it. Yuna put her hand near one of the marks. Her whole hand fit inside the gouge with room to spare. Whatever made these marks had claws the length of her forearm. She took pictures. She measured the marks. She looked around for tracks, but the ground was too hard. She reported everything to Sergeant Moon. Probably territorial marking, he said, looking at her photos. The big predators stay away from us. But they still have their own areas. Just avoid that sector for a while. But Yuna kept thinking about those claw marks. About how high up they started. About how deep they went. About what kind of animal would need claws that big. The colony didn't have any answers. Dr. Yoon checked her files. The largest predator anyone had documented was about the size of a large dog. Definitely not big enough to make marks like that. Maybe it's a species we haven't seen yet, Dr. Yoon said. This planet is barely explored. We've only catalogued a tiny fraction of the wildlife. 3 days before the attack, all the birds disappeared. Yuna was on morning patrol when she noticed. The sky was empty. Silent. Usually, the bird creatures were everywhere, gliding and calling to each other. Now there was nothing. She reported it. Sergeant Moon reported it to the colony administrator. The administrator said they would send a science team to investigate. They never got the chance. The night it happened was warm, clear. Yuna was on tower watch duty, which meant sitting in a platform above the main gate, watching sensor feeds and scanning the tree line with binoculars. It was peaceful work, almost meditative. The stars were beautiful on Kepler 442b, different constellations than Earth, strange and new. At 2,147 hours, the eastern sensors went dark. All of them. 20 sensors in a line, all offline, at exactly the same moment. Yuna leaned forward, checking her screen. Equipment failure? Couldn't be. The sensors were on different systems, different power sources. For all of them to fail at once, She reached for the radio to report it. That's when she heard the screaming. It came from the residential sector, the part of the colony where families lived. Not one voice. Many voices. Terror in the sound. Yuna grabbed her rifle and looked through her scope toward the residential area. Things were moving between the buildings. Big things. Fast things. In the lamplight, she caught glimpses. Scaled skin. Massive bodies. Long tails. Jaws full of teeth. One of them grabbed a colonist who was running. Yuna saw it clearly. The creature was 12 feet tall, walking on two legs like a human, but definitely not human. It moved with horrible speed. Its claws were as long as Yuna's arm, the same claws that had marked that tree. The alarm started blaring. Too late. Way too late. The creatures were already inside the colony. Yuna fired at the nearest one. Her bullet hit its shoulder. The creature barely noticed. Its skin was armored, like a crocodile's skin but thicker. Harder. She fired again. Aimed for the head this time. The creature turned and looked at her. Actually looked at her. Its eyes were intelligent. It roared, and the sound made Yuna's bones vibrate. Then, it charged toward her tower. More creatures appeared from the forest. 5, 10, 20. They moved in a coordinated way, like soldiers, like a hunting pack. Some headed toward the barracks where the Marines slept. Others spread through the residential area. They were everywhere at once. Yuna heard Sergeant Moon's voice on the radio, shouting orders. She heard gunfire. She heard explosions. She heard more screaming. The creature reached her tower and hit it with its shoulder. The whole structure shook. Yuna lost her balance and fell, landing hard on the ground inside the colony perimeter. Her rifle clattered away. The creature looked down at her, its mouth opened, showing teeth as long as her fingers. Yuna rolled to the side as the creature struck. Its claws hit the dirt where she had been. She scrambled to her feet and ran. Behind her, the creature roared again. She could hear its footsteps. Heavy, fast, getting closer. Yuna ran faster than she had ever run in her life. The creature behind her was so close she could hear its breathing. Hot breath on the back of her neck. The sound of claws scraping against the ground with each step. She dove between two storage buildings, into a gap too narrow for the creature to follow. It slammed into the wall, shaking both buildings. The metal screeched. The creature roared in frustration and started clawing at the wall, trying to tear it down. Yuna kept running. She could see the residential sector ahead. Fires were starting. Bodies lay in the streets. Some were moving, crawling, trying to find cover. Others weren't moving at all. A woman ran past Yuna, carrying a child. The child was screaming. A creature appeared from behind a house and cut them off. The woman turned to run the other way, but there was another creature there. They were trapped. Yuna found her sidearm still holstered at her hip. She drew it and fired at the nearest creature's head. Once. Twice. 3 times. The creature stumbled and shook its head like it had been stung by a bee. It turned toward Yuna. The woman ran with her child. They disappeared around a corner. Yuna ran the opposite direction, leading the creature away. She fired again, as she ran. The gun held 15 rounds. She needed to make them count. Ahead, she saw a door standing open. A storage building for residential supplies. She ran inside. It was dark. She could barely see. The building was full of boxes and shelves. She heard people breathing. "Don't shoot," someone whispered. "Please don't shoot." Yuna's eyes adjusted to the darkness. There were 12 people huddled in the back of the building. Mostly civilians. An old man, 2 teenagers, several women, and children. At least 4 children. One of them was Unji. The little girl saw Yuna and started crying. Not scared crying. Relief crying. "I can't find my mommy," she said. Yuna moved to the door and looked out. 3 creatures were in the street, moving slowly, searching, hunting. One of them sniffed the air. Its head turned toward the storage building. "Everyone stay quiet," Yuna whispered. She closed the door slowly, carefully. There was a bolt lock. She slid it closed. It wouldn't stop the creatures for long, but maybe long enough. "Are we going to die?" one of the teenagers asked. "No," Yuna said. She tried to sound confident. She wasn't sure she believed it herself. Outside, something hit the building. The whole structure shook. Boxes fell off shelves. One of the children screamed. The sound was so loud, in the enclosed space, the creature hit the building again. And again. Each impact was harder. The door was bending. The metal frame was cracking. Yuna checked her pistol. 7 rounds left. She had a combat knife on her belt. That was it. No rifle. No grenades. No radio. Nothing else. 7 rounds. 1 knife. 1 creature outside. That weighed probably 1,000 pounds. And had armor. Like a tank. The door bent further. A claw pushed through the gap, searching. The people in the back pressed against the wall, trying to get further away. There was nowhere to go. Yuna aimed at the gap in the door. She waited until she could see the creature's face. Its eye. She fired. All 7 rounds. As fast as she could, pull the trigger. The creature screamed. It pulled back from the door. She had hit it in the eye. Maybe blinded it. Maybe not. But it was hurt. It was angry. And she was out of ammunition. The creature hit the door one more time. The door flew open, hanging from one hinge. The creature started to push inside. It was too big for the doorway. It had to squeeze. But it was coming. Yuna looked around desperately. There had to be something. Anything. Her eyes landed on a can of solvent. Industrial cleaner. Flammable. The warning label said so, in bright red letters. She grabbed the can and popped it open. The smell was horrible. Chemical and sharp. She poured it across the floor in front of the doorway. The creature was halfway inside now. Its claws scraped the concrete floor. Yuna pulled out her knife. She struck the blade against the metal door frame. Once. Twice. On the 3rd strike, a spark caught. The solvent ignited. Fire spread across the floor. The creature roared and tried to back out, but fire was crawling up its legs now. Its scales might stop bullets. But fire was different. Fire got into the gaps. Fire burned hot enough to cook the flesh underneath. The creature retreated from the building. It rolled on the ground, trying to put out the flames. Yuna slammed what was left of the door closed and shoved a heavy shelf against it. She turned to the civilians. "We can't stay here. That won't hold them for long. Is there anywhere safer? Anywhere with better doors? Thicker walls?" The old man spoke up. "The community center. It's concrete. Built to be a storm shelter. About 200 meters from here. 200 meters. Across open ground. With creatures everywhere. With 4 children who couldn't run very fast. With people who weren't trained for combat." "Okay," Yuna said. "Okay." One of the women started crying. "We can't. We'll die. Out there." Yuna knelt down and looked the woman in the eyes. "I need you to trust me. I'm a Marine. I trained for this. I know it's scary. But I will get you to that shelter. Do you understand?" The woman nodded, wiping her eyes. Yuna looked at everyone. "Stay close together. Move quietly. If I tell you to run, you run. If I tell you to hide, you hide. Don't argue. Don't hesitate. Lives depend on it." She looked at the old man. "You lead them. I'll cover from behind. Go to the community center. Don't stop for anything." The old man straightened up. He might have been old, but he had strength in him. "I can do that." Yuna handed her knife to one of the teenagers. If something gets past me, you use this. Aim for the eyes. Understand? Understand. Understand. Aim for the eyes. The teenager took the knife with shaking hands. He nodded. They waited until the sounds outside grew quieter. Then Yuna pushed the shelf aside and opened what was left of the door. The street was empty. The creature she had burned was gone. Maybe dead. Maybe just wounded and hiding. Now, she whispered. They moved as a group. The old man led. Yuna stayed at the back, watching everywhere at once. The community center was across 2 streets and past several houses. In peaceful times, it was a 2-minute walk. Now, it felt like crossing an ocean. They made it to the first street. Empty. They crossed. Halfway across the second street, a creature appeared from between 2 houses. It saw them. It roared. Run! Yuna shouted. Run now! The group scattered forward. Yuna turned to face the creature. No gun, no knife, nothing but her hands and her training. The creature charged. Yuna waited until the last possible second, then dove to the side. The creature's momentum carried it past her. She grabbed a piece of broken pipe from the ground and swung it at the creature's leg joint. The pipe bent against the armored scales. The creature didn't even notice. It turned and swiped at her. Claws caught her right hand. Pain exploded through her arm. She felt her skin tear. Felt something warm running down her wrist. Blood. Her blood. She rolled away and ran. The community center was ahead. The old man had reached the door. He was holding it open. Come on! He shouted. Yuna ran. The creature ran behind her. Faster. Always faster. She reached the door. Dove inside. The old man slammed it shut. It was heavy steel, designed to withstand storms. The lock clicked home. The creature hit the door. Once. Twice. The door held. Yuna collapsed against the wall, breathing hard. Her hand was bleeding badly. The 3 parallel cuts ran from her knuckles to her wrist. Deep cuts. She could see bone in places. Yoonji came over and looked at Yuna's hand. Tears ran down her face. You're hurt. I'm okay. Yuna lied. She wasn't okay. Her hand felt like it was on fire. But she had to be okay. These people needed her. The community center had 47 people inside. Yuna counted them twice to be sure. 47 people who were still alive. She didn't let herself think about how many weren't. Someone found a first aid kit. An older woman who said she used to be a nurse cleaned Yuna's hand as best she could. The cuts were deep. They needed stitches. Proper medical care. But there was no time. The nurse wrapped the hand in bandages and used most of a roll of medical tape to hold it together. You need a hospital, the nurse said. Later, Yuna replied. Right now, I need to think. She went to the windows and looked out. The colony was burning. She could see at least 10 fires. Bodies in the streets. Destroyed buildings. And creatures everywhere. Moving in groups. Searching. Hunting. She tried her radio again. Still dead. Whatever these creatures were, they had either destroyed the communications equipment or the Marines defending it. Either way, there was no calling for help. One of the men came over to her. He was young, maybe 25. His shirt was torn and he had a cut on his forehead. I'm Boram Kwan. I'm an engineer. There's a maintenance tunnel system under the colony. Connects most of the major buildings. We could use it to move around without being seen. Yuna's mind started working faster. Tunnels. That changed things. Everywhere. The power station, the water treatment plant, the maintenance depot, Dr. Yoon's research lab, the research lab. Yuna remembered it. She had been there once. Dr. Yoon had shown her around. It had industrial equipment, plasma cutters for taking samples from rocks, mining charges for drilling, heavy tools. The research lab has weapons, Yuna said. What? No. It has scientific equipment. Equipment that can cut through stone, that can blast through walls. Yuna looked at Boram. Equipment that might hurt those things out there. Boram's eyes went wide as he understood. You want to go to the lab? I need to go to the lab. These creatures have armored skin. Small arms don't work, but plasma burns hot enough to cut metal. And mining charges are basically military explosives. It's half a kilometer away, through tunnels that might have those things in them. Then I'll be very quiet, Yuna said. The old man who had led the group earlier stepped forward. You can't go alone. Take someone with you. I move faster alone. And if something happens to me, these people still need someone to protect them. Yuna looked around the room. She saw fear, exhaustion, desperation. I need everyone to stay here. Stay quiet. Stay hidden. I'll come back. What if you don't? Someone asked. Yuna didn't answer that. Instead, she turned to Boram. Show me the tunnel entrance. The entrance was in a storage closet. A metal grate covered a shaft that led down into darkness. Boram gave her a flashlight. Follow the main tunnel west. It'll take you most of the way. The lab has its own access shaft. Yuna climbed down into the tunnel. It was narrow and dark and smelled like damp earth. Water dripped somewhere in the distance. Her hand throbbed with every heartbeat. She ignored it. The tunnel seemed to go on forever. She moved slowly, carefully. The flashlight made her nervous. It would give away her position if anything was down here. But without it, she was blind. She found the first body after 10 minutes. A Marine. Private Hay-1 Park. They had gone through basic training together. Hay-1 had been funny. Always telling jokes. Always making people laugh. Now Hay-1 was dead. Torn apart by claws and teeth. Yuna took Hay-1's rifle. It still had half a magazine. Maybe 20 rounds. She also found 2 grenades on the body. She tried not to think about Hay-1's face. About the jokes. About the laughter. She kept moving. The tunnel opened up near the research lab. Yuna climbed the access shaft carefully. At the top, she listened. Silence. She pushed open the hatch and climbed out into the lab. Someone gasped. Yuna spun around, rifle ready. Dr. Hana Yoon stood near a workstation. She was hurt. Blood ran down her arm from a deep cut, but she was alive. Yuna? Dr. Yoon said. She sounded like she couldn't believe it. Doesn't matter. Are you alone? Yes. I locked myself in when the attack started. I've been trying to send a distress signal. Did it work? Dr. Yoon nodded. I got a message out before the main communications tower was destroyed. But help won't arrive for at least 18 hours. Maybe longer. 18 hours. Yuna looked at the clock on the wall. It was 2,341 hours. That meant help would arrive around sunset the next day. If they arrived at all. If the message had gotten through. We need to survive until then, Yuna said. I came here for your equipment. The plasma cutters. The mining charges. Anything that might hurt those things. Dr. Yoon understood immediately. She moved to a storage locker and started pulling out equipment. The plasma cutters can burn at 3,000 degrees. The mining charges are designed to break rock. If those creatures are made of flesh and blood, these should work. They gathered everything they could carry. 2 plasma cutters, 6 mining charges, industrial gloves, safety goggles, wire for making tripwires, chemical accelerants. I need to get this back to the community center, Yuna said. There are 47 people there. Civilians, children. Unji? Dr. Yoon asked. Her voice broke when she said her daughter's name. She's safe. She's at the community center. Dr. Yoon closed her eyes and took a deep breath. Thank God. Thank God. A sound came from outside. Footsteps. Heavy footsteps. Multiple creatures. They were circling the lab. Yuna looked at Dr. Yoon. "We need to leave. Now. Can you fight? I'm a scientist, not a soldier. Right now, you're a mother who wants to see her daughter again. That's better than any training." Yuna handed Dr. Yoon a plasma cutter. "Point this at anything that tries to kill us. Pull the trigger. The plasma does the rest." They moved to the door. Yuna counted 3 creatures outside. Maybe more. The tunnel wasn't an option. They would have to fight their way out. "On 3, Yuna whispered. She kicked the door open and fired. The rifle kicked against her shoulder. She aimed for the closest creature's head. Fired. Fired again. The creature stumbled, but didn't fall. Dr. Yoon ignited her plasma cutter and swept it across another creature's face. The plasma burned blue-white. The creature screamed. A horrible sound. Its face was melting. The third creature charged. Yuna couldn't reload fast enough. It was going to reach her. She pulled the pin on one of the grenades and threw it. The grenade bounced off the creature's chest and rolled under its feet. 3 seconds later, it exploded. The creature fell. Its legs were torn apart below the knees. It tried to crawl forward, dragging itself with its arms. Yuna put 3 rounds into its head. Finally, it stopped moving. More creatures were coming. She could hear them, roaring, calling to each other. They knew where Yuna and Dr. Yoon were now. "We run," Yuna said. "We run, and we don't stop." They ran through the burning colony. Past bodies. Past destroyed homes. Past everything that had been peaceful and good about this place. A creature appeared from the left. Dr. Yoon swept her plasma cutter across without hesitation. The creature fell, clawing at its burned face. Another creature from the right. Yuna fired the rifle until it clicked empty. The creature kept coming. She dropped the rifle and grabbed a mining charge. Armed it. Threw it. The explosion knocked them both down. Yuna's ears rang. She couldn't hear anything except a high-pitched whine. She rolled over and saw the creature. Dead. Finally dead. Dr. Yoon pulled Yuna to her feet. They kept running. They reached the community center. Pounded on the door. The old man opened it and pulled them inside. Yuna collapsed against the wall. Her hand was bleeding again through the bandages. Her whole body hurt. But they had made it. Yoonji ran to her mother. Dr. Yoon held her daughter and cried. Yuna looked at the equipment they had brought. 6 mining charges. 1 plasma cutter. Dr. Yoon's was empty, used up. Outside, the creatures were gathering. She could see them through the windows. More than before. Many more. They knew where the survivors were now, and they were getting ready to attack. The night dragged on like a nightmare that wouldn't end. Yuna organized the survivors into groups. Those who could fight, those who could help the wounded, those who would protect the children if everything fell apart. She set up the mining charges around the community center. 2 at the front entrance. 2 at the back. 1 on each side. She connected them with wire, so she could trigger them all from inside. It wasn't perfect, but it would have to work. The creatures tested the building every hour. They would charge the doors, slam against the walls, try to find a weak point. Each time, Yuna waited with her finger near the detonator. Each time, the creatures pulled back before she had to trigger the charges. They were smart. They were learning. They knew the building would be hard to break into. Around 0400 hours, everything went quiet. No more attacks. No more roaring. Just silence. Yuna didn't trust it. She moved to a window and looked out. The creatures were gathering. All of them. She counted 15 in the firelight. Maybe more in the shadows. They were forming up in front of the main entrance. "They're going to hit us all at once," she said. Dr. Yoon came to stand beside her. "How much ammunition do we have left?" "None. I used the last of it getting here." Yuna looked at the mining charges. When they charge, I'll blow the front charges. It'll kill some of them. The rest will come through. That's when we use the plasma cutter. One plasma cutter against 15 creatures. I know. Yuna's hand throbbed. The bandages were soaked through with blood. But we hold them as long as we can. Help is coming. 18 hours. We just need to survive until then. It's been 4 hours, Dr. Yoon said. We have 14 more to go. The creatures charged. They came all at once, a wave of scales and claws and teeth. The ground shook from their footsteps. Their roaring was so loud it hurt to hear. Yuna waited until they reached the door, until she could see their faces. Then she triggered the front charges. The explosion was massive. It blew out the front wall of the building. Fire and smoke everywhere. When the smoke cleared, 5 creatures were down, dead or dying. The others kept coming. Yuna grabbed the plasma cutter. She aimed it at the opening where the door used to be. The first creature through got a face full of plasma. It fell. The second creature jumped over its body. Yuna swept the plasma cutter across. The creature's chest burned and melted. It fell. The third creature was faster. It dodged the plasma and came at Yuna from the side. Its claws reached for her throat. Boram Kwan hit it with a metal chair. The chair broke. The creature barely noticed. But it gave Yuna enough time to bring the plasma cutter around. She pressed it directly against the creature's neck, held it there. The creature thrashed and screamed. Then it stopped moving. The plasma cutter sputtered. The power cell was dying. Maybe 30 seconds of charge left. More creatures were coming through the opening. Yuna backed up. The civilians behind her were screaming. There was nowhere left to go. She thought about the other mining charges. If she triggered them all, the whole building would come down. It would kill the creatures. But it would also kill everyone inside. She thought about Yoonji. About the 47 people depending on her. About how she had promised to protect them. She thought about Earth. About her family. About everything she was going to miss. Then she heard something. A sound from outside. A sound she hadn't heard in hours. Engines. Dropships. The cavalry had arrived. The creatures heard it too. They stopped their attack and turned toward the sky. Bright lights cut through the smoke. Military dropships. 6 of them. Descending fast. The side doors opened. Marines in full combat armor jumped out before the ships even landed. They hit the ground and immediately opened fire with heavy weapons. Real weapons. The kind designed to stop tanks. The creatures that had been attacking the community center turned to face this new threat. It was a mistake. The Marines cut them down in seconds. Explosive rounds tore through armored scales like paper. The creatures didn't stand a chance. More Marines moved through the colony, hunting down the remaining creatures. Yuna heard the gunfire. Heard the explosions. Heard the creatures dying. One of the Marines ran to the community center. Her helmet was marked with the insignia of a corporal. She saw Yuna and stopped. "Private Park?" the Marine said. It was Sujin Choi. They had trained together. Served together before Yuna got assigned to Kepler 442B. "Corporal Choi," Yuna said. She tried to smile. "Early?" "Your distress signal said immediate threat to colony. We pushed the engines to maximum burn." Choi looked around at the destroyed building. At the dead creatures. At Yuna's bloody hand. What happened here? Contact with unknown hostile species. They attacked around 2,200 hours last night. Overwhelming numbers. Most of the security detail is dead. The colonists. Yuna's voice broke. Most of them didn't make it. How many survivors? 47. All in this building. Choi stared at her. 47? That's... You saved 47 people? By yourself? Dr. Yoon helped. Yuna nodded toward Dr. Yoon, who was holding Unji. Choi looked at the dead creatures. At the destroyed defenses. At the evidence of a battle that had lasted all night. You held off 15 of these things with 47 civilians. And no support. 14 hours, Yuna said. That's how long until you got here. I just had to make it. 14 hours. Choi took off her helmet. Her eyes were wet. Yuna shook her head. I just did my job. Your job? Your job was base security. Not fighting a war by yourself. Not. Choi looked at Yuna's hand. Jesus. Yuna. You need a medic. The civilians first. Some of them are hurt worse than me. The next few hours were a blur. Medics arrived. They treated the wounded. They took the dead away on stretchers, covered in sheets. Yuna counted. 183 colonists dead. 10 Marines dead. Out of 2,000 people, only a few hundred survived. But 47 survived because Yuna refused to give up. The memory faded. Yuna was back on the parade ground at Forward Operating Base Arcturus. Back in the present. Sergeant Major Kang was still talking. These scars are from a Krython predator, he said to the assembled soldiers and alien observers. The Galactic Council declared Kepler 442b off-limits after what happened there. Their own military advisors said Krython are impossible to fight with standard infantry weapons. Too fast. Too strong. Too well-armored. He pointed at Yuna. This Marine fought 7 of them by herself. Killed them with mining charges, and plasma cutters, and anything else she could find. She protected 47 civilians for 14 hours until help arrived. The alien observers moved closer. The Chitauri examined Yuna with new interest. Its translation device spoke. This small human fought Krython? Alone? Yes. Sergeant Major Kang said. The lumen hummed in a frequency that translated as respect. The Vrel swirled in its containment suit, in what might have been shock. Captain Lee stepped forward. His face was red. Lance Corporal Park, I owe you an apology. I made a mistake. A terrible mistake. I judged you by your size instead of your service. I'm sorry. Yuna stood at attention. Apology accepted, sir. Sergeant Major Kang turned to face the entire formation. Let this be a lesson. You don't measure a Marine by their height. You measure them by their courage, by their willingness to stand when everything says to run, by their determination to protect others no matter the cost. He looked at the alien observers. You asked if Lance Corporal Park was representative of human soldiers. I'm telling you yes. Every Marine here would do what she did. That's what it means to be human. We don't quit. We don't abandon our people. We hold the line. The Chitauri clicked thoughtfully. We begin to understand why humans are valuable allies. No, Sergeant Major Kang said. You begin to understand why humans are dangerous enemies. There was a long silence. Then, Sergeant Major Kang spoke again. His voice formal. Lance Corporal Park, front and center. Yuna walked forward. Her hand still throbbed. It would always throb. The scars would never fully fade. But as she stood in front of the entire battalion, she stood tall. By order of Terran Defense Command, you are hereby promoted to Corporal, Sergeant Major Kang said. Additionally, you are awarded the Terran Star for exceptional heroism in the face of overwhelming enemy forces. The battalion erupted in cheers. Her squadmates broke formation discipline, shouting and whistling. Even the alien observers made sounds of approval. Later that evening, Yuna stood alone at the edge of the base, looking at the sunset. The sky turned orange and purple. Beautiful colors. Peaceful colors. Corporal Sujin Choi found her there. Yeah. How does it feel? Being a hero? Yuna looked at the scars on her hand. She thought about Kepler 442b, about the colonists who didn't survive, about Sergeant Moon and Private Hay-1, and all the others who died that night. I'm not a hero, she said. I just did what any Marine would do. That's what makes you a hero. Choi said. You don't see it. You just see the job. Yuna didn't answer. She kept looking at the sunset. Somewhere out there, Dr. Yoon and Unji were starting a new life on a safer planet. The other survivors were rebuilding, moving forward, living. That's all Yuna had wanted. For them to live, do you have nightmares? Choi asked quietly. Yes. Does it get easier? I don't know yet. They stood in silence for a while. Then Choi put a hand on Yuna's shoulder. For what it's worth, I'm glad you made it back. The universe needs more Marines like you. Yuna finally smiled. A small smile. But real. The universe needs Marines who do their job. That's all I did. But in her heart, she knew the truth. She had done more than her job. She had done the impossible. And the scars on her hand would always remind her of the night she refused to break. The next morning, Yuna stood in formation again. This time at the front, where Sergeant Major Kang had placed her. The alien observers watched with respect. Her squad mates stood proud beside her. She was still small, still shorter than everyone around her, but nobody would ever tell her to step aside again. Not after they saw what those scars meant. Not after they understood what humanity could do when pushed to the edge. The Sergeant Major called the formation to attention. The morning sun caught the new rank insignia on Yuna's uniform. It caught the scars on her hand. And somewhere in the galaxy, other humans were standing their ground, fighting impossible odds, refusing to quit. Because that's what humans did. That's what made them special. That's what made them dangerous.